Hi, I'm Jeanne Kelly, your credit coach on Credit Over Coffee. And today I'm so excited to have attorney Samara Halpern on. How are you?
I'm good. It sounds so formal when you say it like
I
that.
know, right? Well, you deserve it. You're amazing. I love working with you. And I was excited to have you on so we can all talk about home buying and having an attorney and an estate planning and all that good stuff. So, before we dive deep into all of that, why don't we even talk about how you got into the law practice?
Okay, so I'm gonna try to keep this as short and sweet as possible.
Okay.
Um, Long story short, I knew when I was a kid that I always wanted to be a lawyer. You know, when you're a kid and they put that in your report card, like, oh, talks too much, like that was me, you know. So everyone was like, oh, she's gonna be a lawyer one day. And now here I am. It all made sense, and I don't think it's a bad thing.
Of course not.
So, as you're fully aware, I didn't have kind of a straight course to having my own practice, which I do now. I started out in litigation and I thrived, loved it. I know it's so odd to a lot of people, but I love being in court, doing trials and all that good stuff. Then I kind of veered a little bit and I joined the NYPD as an attorney in-house. And then I still don't know how to sum it up, but I made a crazy decision. I guess I joined the police academy. So I became a police attorney. I became a police officer with the NYPD.
Wow.
And everybody always asks, like, wait, you were like on the street? I'm like, yes, I was on the street.
In the city, in the Big Apple.
In the Big Apple. They gave me a gun and everything. So I did that for a number of years. And then unfortunately, I ended 2020 with a bang. I got into a really bad car accident. So
Okay.
kind of transitioned everything again. I had to deal with recovery, multiple surgeries. And it was really at that point in time when the night before my shoulder surgery, I had to sit down with my mom and discuss about what if, because I didn't have anything lined up. So here I am, an attorney who is also a police officer with, I didn't have a healthcare proxy, I didn't have a power of attorney, I didn't have a will, I had nothing. And I'm going in for this major surgery and like, what are you doing? So I
Right.
had to sit my mother down, which no mother ever wants to have that conversation with their child about what happens if
Right.
they're incapacitated, you know, and all that good stuff. And have that conversation. And it's
Right.
never a good conversation. So long story longer, years later, I left NYPD, and I opened up my own firm and I decided to focus on real estate and estate planning because they're two things that are very near and dear to my heart. I am a
Yeah,
homeowner, which I think is an amazing accomplishment. And when
it
people
is.
can, you know, achieve that milestone, it's great. I love to be a part of it, especially with first time home buyers because it's such an
Yeah.
exciting time, nerve-wracking, the anxiety is through the roof. But I also, when I did purchase my house, I had a lot of resistance from a lot of people around me. They told me I was nuts. So, yeah.
Well,
Um,
we're going to talk about a lot of that.
yeah, so I love being able to help clients with both, you know, difficult
Yes.
major milestones in your life because anyone that's listening to this is going to be more than likely over the age of 18 and should have the basics at least set up, and most people don't.
Right. Right. Exactly. And you knowing that you should didn't. And that's because life gets in the way. We're busy. And that's why, like right now, if you're listening, make sure you put a note to schedule an appointment, to have these things done. But where do you practice? Just so all the listeners know.
So I am only licensed in New York.
Okay.
So, and obviously it's got to be within driving distance of where I am. So I do practice in mainly Westchester, but I also do appearances in Dutchess, Putnam, Orange, Rockland, the five boroughs as well. And I will do Long Island occasionally.
Okay.
I am a Long Island girl at heart, so.
Okay, great. Well, let's dig into the home buying practice and like law. And what do you think every home buyer, when they're starting out, what should they actually be asking of their attorney? Like, why do they need an attorney here in New York? Why do you think they need one?
Well, I mean, obviously the contract's going to be key, right? You want to make sure that you're fully, completely covered from start to finish and that you don't have any surprises later on in life. So no, number one, I mean, you're making the biggest financial decision of your life, more than likely. Houses are not cheap, especially in
Right.
New York. We know that.
Yeah.
So you're committing to, whether it be a mortgage, whether you're paying cash, whatever. I mean, it's a huge investment, and you
Right.
want to make sure that that investment is covered. So the attorney is number one. All of my deals, regardless if I'm repping the buyer or the seller, I always first reach out to, I have a title person who I love and adore and trust completely. She's fantastic. I know you've had the opportunity to meet her.
Yep. Love Sue.
Um, Yep, she does preliminary searches for me, and that will show you, number one, like first and foremost, who actually owns the property that is being sold, because that's been a huge thing lately where people are quote unquote saying that they own it and they don't own it. So,
What?
oh, you haven't seen that?
No.
Yeah.
Oh, not good. That's a unexpected surprise for the person who might be dreaming of buying that house, thinking the person accepted their offer and they're not even allowed to do so.
Yeah, or if people make a deal like without an attorney, without a title search, without title insurance, and then they get screwed because they got scammed and that
Right.
you're out, who knows how much you're out in that scenario.
Yeah.
That's, numero uno is I want to make sure that you're buying the house from the actual owner and that
Right.
it's actually able to be sold even, because sometimes these houses are caught up in foreclosures or bankruptcies, or there's crazy liens and judgments, or even, I mean, there's so many scenarios. There's always something new.
Yeah.
So there's a lot, if there's an estate involved, there's so many different things. I mean, I could sit here and list a million what ifs, but
Right.
really at the end of the day is you want to work with an attorney that, number one, you trust, number one, is going to be looking out for you, and number three, and I actually, this should be number one, answers the phone.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yes, of course. And I'm going to say this, I feel that needs to kind of know the area. Like, you know how you're saying, this is really where I specialize in,
Yeah.
because, I'm sure there's different things for different counties. And like, I would have no idea. So I would think a attorney, maybe up in Buffalo, New York, I'm just going to say, would have no idea about something in Dutchess County or whatever it may be. So
Yeah.
I think that's also important. And, really, how do they find you? Is it mostly through the realtor?
So more often than not, a lot of referrals come from realtors, mortgage lenders. I get a lot of referrals from former clients, which is
Of
great.
course.
That's the,
Yes.
the ideal. But yeah, primarily through realtors. And I just want to touch base on something you just said with regards to
Yeah.
knowing the area. So I personally am on a well and a septic. That was new to me as a Long Islander most of my life. I had no idea what either one of those did, like nothing about either of them.
Right.
So I had to learn personally firsthand, like what I can and can't do with my house. But also, every county, like you said, they have different rules. So in Westchester, for example, if you have a well and you are selling, you have to get that tested. And a lot of people don't realize that.
Wow. So let me ask you this. Let's say you're at the closing table. If you're at the closing table and that wasn't done, what happens?
It's going to be an issue. I
Okay.
don't think we would
Okay.
get that far to the closing table without that happening, because more than likely, I mean, unless the buyer's attorney doesn't know any better,
Right.
seller's attorney is going to advise their client, test your well. I mean,
Okay.
one of my clients just had their well tested yesterday, so it's very
Okay.
fresh in my head. But I made sure that that was scheduled and taken care of because she is in Westchester. She's actually one of my neighbors. But yeah,
Oh, how nice. That's
we
awesome.
didn't meet until after I was representing her. But it was funny because I was just driving down the street and I'm like, wait a minute, I know that sign and I know that address.
That is awesome.
Represent that address.
Small world, they always say it.
Yeah.
So in real estate closings, what's a common mistake or delay? Delay is like the worst when you are waiting to sign the dotted line. I remember when I wanted to be in this house so bad, and it was near the holiday season. And I was like, I want to be there for Thanksgiving, whatever it may be. And it just couldn't happen, but everything was delay, delay.
Yeah.
Why the delays?
So a big thing that happens, which is also covered when you do the preliminary search, is that sellers will either refinance or they take out some type of additional credit line or something, and it wasn't recorded as satisfied or it wasn't recorded properly. And then that pops up when you do the title search, and then they're first starting to scramble to do that. Now, if you do a preliminary from the beginning, you're going to see what you have and you're going to deal with it right then and there. So a few months ago, perfect example, my client, I was repping the seller. She was married and divorced. When they got divorced, she took out a different mortgage, paid off the first mortgage with her ex-husband.
Okay.
However, they both still appeared on the title. The first one was not properly recorded. So since we knew that before she even listed the house, she was able to handle it.
And that's let's also ask that question. So I'm talking about the home buying, but
Mhm.
it's also really good home selling. When is it important for, if I was selling, when should I talk to an attorney?
Right away.
Right away.
I think you need to have everything lined up right away. If whether you're buying or selling, regardless, you should have your attorney
Okay.
ready to go, because once the attorney's retained, that contract's drafted, you're in contract. You want to be in contract as soon as possible.
Right.
You want to
Right.
accept that offer before they go and make another offer somewhere else and get a different
Right.
house.
Exactly.
So, and for the buyers, you want your offer to be accepted. You want it to be taken serious. So if you have an attorney already lined up to go, they're gonna be like, all right, this person's not messing around. We're ready.
They're ready. Okay. So that's good. It's just something I don't, I didn't even think about that on the selling side. Let's transition now to, you own the house. It's great. We're celebrating. We're happy. When is it time that you think someone should start thinking of getting a will, having the estate planning?
Well, before you buy the house.
Oh,
I
okay.
mean, you need to, anybody who is over the age of 18 needs
Mhm.
to have just the basics. And when I say the basics, I
Yeah.
mean a will, a healthcare proxy, and a power of attorney. So the will is going to discuss your assets. That would be the home, obviously. And if you purchase a home after you have a will drafted and it's not mentioned, that should be amended then. And then the healthcare proxy is really who's going to speak on your behalf if you're incapacitated.
Mhm.
Now, this goes for children over the age of 18. So when you send your child to college and
Mhm.
they're over 18, you need to have a healthcare proxy. Just because
Yes.
you're their parent, they're still an adult.
Mhm.
And a lot of
Yes.
people don't realize that.
And I remember that when Cassandra went to college,
Hmm.
and I needed to get that. And also they don't even want to talk to you, period. So, like, you definitely, not the child. I don't mean my baby. I'm talking about the school, anything like.
Yeah.
So definitely you need that part lined up for their well-being. And of
Yeah.
course, it's something you never want to think about. You
No.
hopefully that you never have to use, but isn't it nice to just have it so in an emergency it's there ready to go? So over
Peace of
18.
mind.
Yeah, peace of mind, setting
Yeah.
everything up. And then, when you set it up in advance like that, I just feel like it takes away the anxiety for, as the time of us aging, we're already kind of used to, it's part of our financial package. We don't think of it as that, end of life. If we could do it totally in advance. And of course, I'm sure, here's the next question. How often, when you do, let's say, a will, should you be checking on it? Like, how does that work?
They say the statement across the board is anytime there's a major life change. So whether it be a marriage, a divorce, and birth of a child, anything like that, you should do a review. But I strongly recommend reviewing it every year or so. I mean, because things are always changing, right?
Yeah.
I'm a perfect example. I mean, I purchased a home. I changed careers. I have a beautiful niece. So I'm not personally married. I don't personally have children, but there's still loved ones that I have, which is another thing. People think that if they're not married, they don't have kids, they don't have a lot of assets, they don't have a big net worth. It doesn't matter. It
Hmm.
doesn't matter. You still have family, you still have loved ones, and you want to make sure that you're covered.
Right. And that you just said another thing that's so important. I think that people have in their mind, wills are when you have a lot of money. And it's not, they don't understand that it's, no matter what, there's things to have in place. So it doesn't matter the income, it doesn't matter what's in the savings. And that's why you need someone like yourself that can really help guide them. And
Yeah.
I do think every year as well to do a little quick check-in.
And that's like across the board with your beneficiaries and everything. Like
Yes.
you should always
Yes.
be checking because you never know. I mean, and things happen where there's falling outs between family members and maybe you want to disinherit somebody. So that has to be amended, that has to be changed, that has to be updated.
Right, right. I've heard horror stories. I've heard horror stories where an ex had still, their ex on the paperwork. And guess what? They got it where I'm sure they would have changed it. So we all know, I'm sure all of us know someone or a
Yes.
story like that that we've heard. So it's an easy thing to have like in your calendar, hey, I did my will. We have alerts everywhere. Why can't we just put it in? Even if you say, okay, the alert pops up and nothing changed. Peace of mind, put it for the next year, every year pop it up. And then during the year, we're busy. And then we'll say, oh, you know what? I had another niece or nephew, and I want to make sure I include that person,
Yeah.
or whatever, besides deleting, adding in, right, for the good stuff. Now, also, what do you think, like, you wish every homeowner would be doing before shopping for a house?
I think that you need to have a real heart to heart with yourself and your significant other if you're purchasing it with a significant other about your wants and your needs. I think that's a big thing that people don't communicate properly and you're not looking properly for it. And what do I mean by that? Like when I was searching for a house, I said there's no way I am buying a house without a full basement. That was a need.
Yeah.
My current house does not have a full basement. My
Okay.
other need, I was not purchasing a house that was a corner property. My house is a corner property. So, I think there's a big difference between what you want and what you really need because my house is adorable. It's perfect for me and it worked out,
Mhm.
but it wasn't what I initially had. So initially I wasn't even gonna come look at my house and now look at me 3 years later, I'm living here.
I
So
love it.
it's like,
Yeah.
so I think that's the number one thing. Like you really have to sit down and have a heart to heart about what you really like what's the deal breakers.
Right.
Because I have a client last week who got an accepted offer, the buyer, and her partner decided to walk away because it was too far of a commute for him.
Mm.
But that's something that should have been discussed before you even
Yeah.
got to that point.
Of course, of course. But yes, so that is important. I agree. And definitely to me, location, location, location. My
Yeah.
grandpa said that many years ago, and I still think about that. And it's true. Where do you want to be? And then what the location, I mean, where I live now, they must have said something's wrong. That car's here again. I would drive around 5 in the morning, 8 o'clock in the morning, 10 o'clock at night. I wanted to see how is the area?
Yeah. But
Are
that's
there a lot of children? Is there a school bus that's picking up a zillion kids or
yeah.
one kid? Like just kind of finding out what kind of area this was and going different directions too, like not just going the one direction the realtor brought you because they always bring you the nice way, right? Like make sure you venture out and do all of that. But you know, I
Yeah.
I love real estate, home buying. I love it all. And that's why I love, helping people on the credit side. So let me ask you this. How do people find you, Samara? If they want to follow you, where do we find you?
So the best way to reach me is obviously the phone, 914-810-3122. But I'm also on Instagram as Halpern Law PC, or you can email me at samara@halpernlawpc.com.
We'll put that all in the show links. Thank you so much for your time and your beautiful energy. I love it. I love it. And a lot of good tips here. Everybody, make sure they have that will in place. And if you're in New York, give Samara a call.